The stream is live. Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you listen to this podcast from. This is Stramash Media on the Sports Show. I'm Norrie Hunter and my sidekick is Chris Linnett. We'll be taking you through Scottish sport on this podcast tonight. We have had some cancellations, some injuries. Glenn can't be here because he suffers badly from migraines. And David is away doing something else. So it's me and Chris, but we've got lots to talk about, the pair of us. Don't worry. Chris, how you doing, mate? How you doing?
Doing fine, aye. It was my second game of fives this week, so yeah, for those of you young enough to remember John Wayne, that's what I'm walking like.
I know. Right, Chris, the first thing, let's get stuck into this, right? We'll deal with our ills and pains later on.
Yeah, that's a doctor's channel.
Aye, I know. Well, listen, the big news was the SFA, the beaks of the SFA or the SPFL, probably both, decided to review a game that was played between Motherwell and St Mirren not so long ago. And it involved the guy, Callum Slattery, went down like a boxer's left hook. There was nothing wrong with him. He wasn't touched. We could all see that from the TV coverage of the game. And now, at this point, they've come out and given him, I think it's a 6-week ban, a 6-match ban for simulation. What do you make of this, Chris? Is this about time, or is this what's behind all this? What's your take on it?
Aye, well, look, they gave him 4 matches, but 2 suspended. So essentially,
that's right.
If he doesn't repeat his offence, then he's missing 2 games. But it's a longer word for cheating. I mean, that's you can't look at it any other way other than cheating. You know, yeah, it was worse than embarrassing. I don't know. There's another adjective for it, but I don't know what it is. But yeah, it was worse than embarrassing, really.
Absolutely. Because you're trying to get a fellow pro sent off to try and get some advantage on him. Whereas in the old days, when I was playing rugby, you were playing football probably, you would never dream of diving like that, like a fairy prince, and trying to come back up as the victim of all this. It sickens fans, and I hope that Callum Slattery sees the folly of his actions and is suitably embarrassed. I'd love to interview the guy actually to see what he thinks after all this. But you can't do that to a fellow pro, can you?
Well, you can. He just did it. I mean, that's that's obvious. But yeah, it was just, you could, I was like a child. They're out playing and all that, and you hear them, and they hear them greeting and all that. And if you don't look at them, the chances are they're probably all right. You can see them sort of looking up to see has anybody clocked this or whatever. But it was, the ironic thing was he was the one that was grabbing your man's arm anyway in the first place. The guy's trying to get him off. That's all he was doing. He was literally, so he was being fouled really, and he tried to stop the guy impeding him. Just flicked him away, and then the delayed. I mean, you would think. To be honest, I've got a couple of pals that are Motherwell fans, and they're always embarrassed. It reminds me sort of, well, for me, Chesnikov and Hearts, that sort of level of deceit. But just the irony is that he was actually fouling. If there was going to be a foul, it would have been him impeding that guy actually getting away. And the guy just, he literally, I don't even know if he was looking at him, just reacted and down he went. It was just so poor.
The other, the people who are kind of supporting this image of what we think is people feigning injury are saying that no, the players are faster but they're lighter, and so when they're going that fast and you just touch them, they'll go over. And even commentators now will say, well, you can see a hand on him, so that's enough for the referee. He's giving the referee no choice, and it's this language we're using in football, Chris, nowadays that really grinds my gears. A hand on somebody doesn't mean to say that it's a foul. In the old days, a penalty was like you took the guy down, you chopped him, you scythed him. But nowadays, and they leave a leading leg in. That's the other thing. So here's what I'm trying to say is it becoming more and more difficult for referees to spot these things?
Aye. And you could say because they're moving faster and all the rest of it, but that particular incident, it was as clear as day. And what's ironic is that with Gogic, I don't know how this happened, but he literally pushed the guy. He just pushed the guy, and the guy went over, and he gets sent off. And then in the same game, they looked at it in VAR and went, "Nah, well, that's not a send. It wasn't even a booking, to be honest, but that's what he got." So I don't understand why they didn't review the VAR stuff with this guy. No idea why, but the whole thing, he was going so he was moving faster, and that was enough to. Football players are built like middleweight boxers these days, and they're going faster, fair enough, but they're with the same token, the same quads that allow them to go faster also allow them to balance. So you can't even throw that argument there. It's just
No.
it comes back as well with Andy Walker. There was contact, and that was enough for him. So
I know. It just baffles me when they come out of this stuff. One stat I did read about, even Scottish players, you would think they're a bit more sluggish, but on average, they run 10 kilometres a game nowadays. That is into space, going from one box to the other. They can all do it. Back when I was, back not when I was playing football, but when I was watching football, you had people who had specific box-to-box runners, right? Paul Hartley was one of them. He's a great box-to-box player. But now the right backs, the forwards have to come back to defend, and the forwards have to go up and stop the block. They're all doing something, and they're running an amazing amount of miles or kilometres, 10 kilometres on average. Now, my point in that is I've done 10Ks, and when I get to 9K, I'm feeling a bit tired. I'm jiggered, and I'm just thinking, is that the reason that what's happening with footballers? They've lost that wee inch of or that yard of pace because they've ran so much, and anything they feel they'll just go down.
No, because straight away your argument there is that's what players do. Well, therefore that would apply to every player, and every player isn't doing that. So no.
Well, you could see that more penalties are getting awarded in the modern game than ever before. And there's a lot of stuff in, like, where does the ball hit the hand? Did the hand hit the ball? Where were your hands when it came to you? All that kind of thing. You'll find that in the last periods of the matches, it's when players are tired that they forget to put their hands behind their back and they stretch out. Penalty.
But I mean that they talk about, and I'm paraphrasing, but like they talk about unnatural position. Running towards a forward or backing off from a forward as a defender with your arms behind your back. That's not a natural position anyway.
No,
so
it's not.
it's if I could spell it, I would say the word. I think it's a contortion, but it's just absolutely. And do you want penalties for some guy? I mean, what they might as well do, if you think about it, is just get a guy to keep leathering the ball across the box, because sooner or later, if taking the law's average, if it hits one of your players, fair enough, it's a free kick. But one out of every 5 times it'll hit one of theirs, and it's a penalty. So honestly, you could have guys, like American football, the kicking specialists that come on. You could easily have that as well. So for me, it's making a mockery of the game, really, that this ball's pinging round the box and eventually it makes contact, just more penalties. And it's not, I could understand if you're saying, well, as a spectacle, there's more, but it's just to me that there's no place for it in the game, and you're hoping that in a year's time we'll be looking back at this and going, yeah, but it took us long enough to rescind this rule, but it's gone now and we're the better for it.
But the thing is, Chris, what I look at when I watch a football match, any time there's a kind of sniff of a chance you're getting a penalty, they'll all crowd round the referee. And there's no respect for that referee, not like rugby, where he's there to control the game and order people into a semblance of good sporting activity. That's not what football referees are up against. They are being challenged by 4 or 5 of the same team to look at it again. And in the African World Cup final, not the African Cup, the can't remember what it's called, Ofcon, I think it is. In the last minute of the final, they gave a penalty for a guy who was screaming his head off. And when they looked, and the referee gave him a penalty, and the other team went off the pitch, So what's happening with football is the referee is giving them that tiny decision that he was touched. The other team didn't like it. They've gone off the pitch. They've been so incensed that they've gone off the pitch. This is Sadio Mane, ex-Liverpool player, and all the rest of them. So what you've got is chaos in football now. And you've set a precedent where these guys can walk off the pitch and it can be reviewed. And that brings me to our next subject we'll talk about in a minute, about how PSG have managed to cancel their game. So who's in charge of football then, Chris? Is it the referees or the players?
Well, I mean, I think you made a decent enough point. Just make it look rugby. Or you question my decision 10 yards back. You question again, not a problem. Obviously, with that, then a player's going to, do the Bruce Grobbler, allegedly Bruce Grobbler, cheating and actually giving themselves a disadvantage. You'd need to look into that as well. But there's just a level of, I mean, I'm not saying people that play rugby are better, but they do seem to, there seems to be in the game there's more of an ethos, I think, and obviously it's blended in with the discipline and all the rest of it. But now in football, I believe the rule is that any decision, only the captains can speak to the referees, but they still get surrounded. But I would say you can't rely on the players to discipline themselves. So the referee should say, right, okay, within 2 seconds, I'll have both of the captains or one of the captains or none next to me, but anyone else is getting booked. And that would very, very quickly get stamped out. That would die out in a matter of games.
They're doing that in the English league. It's only the captains that can come over and speak to the ref. But even at that, there's people in his ear behind him shouting and stuff. He's always going to be influenced. But the one thing I'm getting really annoyed about.
Just start booting people. It's not a problem.
Aye, I know. Aye, exactly. Get the cards out. Who cares if you put out 10 cards in a game, send them all off? That'll stop.
In that individual game, maybe someone might have been booked that shouldn't have been because of the melee or whatever. But that doesn't matter. Overall, you'll clean up the game literally within a matter of 3 matches. They'll soon learn.
I'm telling you, because points mean prizes. It's a results business, and if you can't get your results, you're going to have to change your methods. And the other thing that on the back of all this, I cannot stand, is a boy getting hit on the arm or the chest and goes down holding his head. When he does that, the referee, on a safety rule, has to stop the match and make sure he gets attention. If the guy, and half the time you see them looking up to see which way the referee's going with it,
It's just a petulant 3-year-old, that fellas, MD looking, and it's the same sort of level of intelligence, really. Just learn behaviour, and I think managers have got to take some responsibility for this as well. I would look at the game and go, mate, you embarrass yourself there, you embarrass me. The press don't need to know about it, but that's a week's wages. But honestly, that's what I would do. But sadly, the thing is, like a guy like Alex Ferguson now, he'd be up for assault. You know what I mean? In this modern,
he would.
Players have got agents in their ears telling them, "Oh, yeah, I know you're a third division player, but you're really the best in the world. You deserve X amount," and their heads are getting turned, and it's more like babysitters now. Some of the managers, to take him there. There's a place for that in the game, but not every other week. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes people need to be telling the truth.
I know. You're absolutely right. Which brings us on to the next article that is up for discussion, because we're now seeing a top European team who, like Real Madrid, see the European Cup as a trophy to win. It's more important to their domestic league, their domestic cups, Europe, and the top cup in Europe they want. So now what we're seeing in France is PSG been allowed to cancel their game with Lille, I think it is, a week before they're playing Liverpool. And the correct question is, who is bigger, the club or the league? Why is this one game being cancelled on behalf of the other? It doesn't happen for any other team in France.
Well, that's not strictly true because I think it's Lens anyway. But I think what
Lords,
happened,
is it?
and like it happened with Strasbourg as well. But they're in a lower competition. But they get their game moved round. But I mean, what I would have to say was it was the league board as such. So it was all the teams. I think Lens they didn't agree with it, obviously, because the downside of them was they weren't playing for more than 2 weeks, and then you'd have to play 3 games a week. So that's going to massively hit them in a season where they're there or thereabouts. Funnily enough, with Paris Saint-Germain. So you've got to say it's well, it's a good move by PSG, but by the same token, the rest of the league, they all met up. There was a board, and they said, well, for the coefficient, PSG and Strasbourg, the games are going to be moved around. So you could say it's the big guys ruling the roost, but the league did vote for it. So it's a hard one, that one.
Well, you're getting your coefficient by ill-gotten gains because you're manoeuvring your own system to work on another system, whereas it's got to be a fair competition. I mean, if this game, for example, if this game was played just after Christmas, there's so many games played in the English division and Scottish division to cover the holidays and get people as much money as they can. That you can make a point, and some countries even have a break, a winter break. It doesn't happen in England or Scotland.
It used to.
But it used to. But I don't know if it happens in France. But that would be another advantage they could have. Is it just the same as that? They're working their system through weather and through pitches and conditions. It just so happens that they're going to have the week off before they go into European competition.
Well, I mean, Lens obviously they voted against it, but all the other teams voted for it. And if you think about it, Lens, I mean, the chances are now that they're going to be playing European football next year, regardless of whether they win the league. Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, the coefficient up until then, they would have wanted to be as high as possible. So the fact that this year means that they're going to have to play the three games a week and miss out and no play for over 2 weeks. That's a distinct disadvantage of them and handing advantage to PSG. But in the overall scheme of things, they will benefit from all the years the coefficient being better when they get to Europe, which they probably will.
Yeah.
Season, so it's no. First it giveth, then it taketh out. So they'll be getting something back. But I can see why they say, well, the big boys get it all their own way. But in an ideal world, Lens would win the league in the next 2 years, and they'd be in that position. So what would they speculate? What would they then do?
I don't know. There's something not right about it, and it doesn't sit well with me. I think it's money talks and power corrupts. Because if the opposite team are against it, along saying no, we don't want it because it upsets our travel plans and our fans have got to, thinking about the structure of their club. What's it got to do with the rest of the league?
Well, I'm guessing again. I'll guess that this is a protocol that any movement of games the whole league must be consulted, and they've said, well, you could argue, I suppose, all right, it's democracy that there's a 12-team league or whatever, 11 of them were for it.
Yes.
And one was against, rightly so against. They've got valid reasons for that, but given another twist of circumstances, would they have been for it? Probably, aye. And they will benefit from the coefficient some way. So, yeah, I mean, money does talk, and the biggest guys get to, I wouldn't say dictating this, but certainly suggest the way it would have turned out.
I don't know who's on the board of the French Football Association and how they get elected. Is it just like the Scottish one, where it's just grandees are appointed, people we don't even know what their interest in football is, and they make decisions for us? I
Well,
don't
I
know.
mean, I'm guessing there will only be too many bowling club managers in in the French delegation, but
Exactly. You never know, though. You never know who's
you don't.
because we
We'll,
don't elect them. The fans don't elect them. That's the problem, and this is the problem with football. Because the World Cup will soon be upon us, but already we're seeing, because of the Iran war, or the Epstein war, it's been called. You're seeing countries not going, just saying no. It's too dangerous for us as Iranians or for Lebanese or whoever to go there, and we're pulling out. So we might see other teams coming through the qualifying stages, magically getting through. What do you think will happen, Chris? Do you think the places will be filled? And is there too much money to be lost for countries not to go?
I mean, there's massive amounts of money to be lost. People, have mortgaged the hilt to go and see it, but I mean, I don't know how safe, in fairness, an Iranian team, unsafe it would be for an Iranian team in America. I think if it was the opposite way about, it'd be slightly more dangerous for the Americans. But yeah, you get your security and you go. I mean, what might end up happening is it just what they did with the women's team. Some of them might end up defecting. I don't know, but I mean,
Can you imagine the Americans going to Iran and defecting away from Trump? That could happen. I think that.
Chasing them in the desert on a camel. Well, you don't need if they don't want to be in America, they can exercise a democratic right to leave. So you can do that. They don't need.
Well, I think it's the safety factor. You don't want to travel just in case. So if you're living in the Middle East, and you've got a passport from one of those countries, you might think, my life's in danger. I'm not going. I'm not doing it. And then, of course, no fans is going over. It's going to be a one-sided affair. If you're playing America, for example, the stadium's going to be full of Americans and nothing to support the team. So you think, we'll take the team out. We'll take the team out because they don't want to be under any risk either. And you're finding this all over the place. America can't. Donald Trump is the biggest problem, and he was awarded a peace prize by Infantino at the draw. There's the credibility of FIFA.
They should have waited, I think, before awarding them that. That's what I would say there.
Aye, but because it's happened, Chris, the FIFA, the respect for FIFA has gone down the drain. They're a laughing joke, they're a laughing stock.
Yeah,
what will this? Aye, yeah, but football from the crowds, from the people, us the people, we're the ones that are perpetuating their profit. If we stopped supporting our the FIFA organised competitions and have another one, I don't know who would organise it or how it would become, but it's very difficult. But something must happen for FIFA to be rerouted and the culprits booted out, because they're not representing football, they're representing big money.
I mean, I think it would be hard to organise a counter sort of football association quite quickly, but absolutely they could. I mean, if there was a national strike, I would be there tomorrow. I'll just not tell any jokes for a while. But honestly, that's the only way to hurt these people in their pockets. But I mean, I don't see that any Iranians coming over to America are really in any danger. Like, they might get a bit of heckling and all the rest of it, but I mean, it's hard to know what's going to happen between now and then. But I mean, I wouldn't. I don't think I'd be in fear for my life, but I'm not them. But
yeah, well, it's because we haven't been in fear of our life before. Once we meet it, then we're scared. Then we'll not go again. Do you know what I mean? It's a funny old thing. On that, well, crikey, half the show already on those two things. It's amazing how much value there is in talking about these things. Just because we don't have Glenn, we don't have the quiz, I was just wanting to maybe talk about what we do as sports. And I'll go first if you don't mind, Chris. I've played rugby till I was in my 30s. Then I got an injury. Then I came out, and I couldn't live without sport. I couldn't I can't stay in the house for too long, right? I've got to get out. So then I took up running. I've done 110Ks and I don't know, 20, 25 half marathons. And the reason I do, and I've always been involved with sport, is because of my youth from school. I've always seen sport as an outlet for, if you're no good at this, you can always do sport, you know? And then I tried it, and I've got to say, I never excelled at anything I ever did, but I loved every second of it. I just love getting out there. I love filling my lungs with gallons and gallons of fresh air, you know? And when you do that, your mental health becomes better and you become better as a person. And then you can do things. Things in ordinary day life become easier because you've done it in the sporting context. After my knees, and I do a few 10Ks, because I moved up to the Highlands, I started hill walking again. And that has become my big passion. And why? Because it's the only place I can get away from my phone. It's the only place I can get peace. And it's the only way I can burn my legs. My calves can be burnt going up these hills. And there's something, maybe men, maybe not women watching this would understand it. But see, when you push your body and you get to where you're going, you look back and you think, aye, I done it. I can still do it, you know? Why is it that those are my explanations of why I keep doing sport? Why is it you get on your bike, Chris?
Because Norman Tebbit told me to. I mean, back to your point, but you know exactly. You know, you feel as if you've done it, you've achieved it, and it's a brilliant thing. Like, I mean, it's not overrated. I go for a cold shower every morning. I don't want to do it, but I know it's good for me. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right. And I mean, you know, I remember I come up to Drum the Rocket when we went the bikes, and that was certainly a burn that day, you know. So I understand why you do it, and I mean, in theory, you can switch your phone off, but you know, when you go somewhere and there's no signal, then the decision's made for you. So I think that's, you know, that in and of itself is a good thing because you can sort of fixate. You know, if you're in the house or you're running about, you can fixate on things that really,
Mm-hmm.
when you think about it, in the overall scheme of things, aren't they the things that should be making you unhappy? Are they even going to happen? That's the first question you need to ask.
Right.
So yeah, just getting away, physical distance away from it, and I mean, your body's too busy trying to survive, literally, rather than worrying about, you know, and this thing about, oh, we've all evolved, you know, we wear suits now and all that. I mean, I remember being in a train in Russia and the wee guy getting in the same cabin bit, you know, and the sort of caveman thing kicks in, you know, what's happening here? Is it going to be all right? Is it not going to be all right? You just, you know, we're so little evolved for that physical exercise is just one of these things that really, when you do it and you get through the pain barrier, it's worth it. So the short answer is I used to do drinking. I've stopped doing that now. So my chosen sport is I'm out on the bike, jump on the bike. Yeah.
On just something you're saying there, Chris. I said on, I think it was a podcast or a post I put out. I was doing a hill and I says, a house can become a prison, but see when you go out and you go up to the hills, it suddenly becomes a sanctuary again. And I think that's what we need to realise. You've got to get out of your surroundings sometimes before it becomes a prison for you. And that's the problem a lot of us have. And loneliness is a big problem. And one of the things I love about going up the hills, I invariably see at least 2 or 3 other people. And I get a good chin wag. And it's always a cordial event. And you feel relieved that they can show you directions the way they've gone. Is there snow at the top? You know, and very, very good clues about, especially in this weather, good clues about what's to come ahead. You might want to turn back if you're not confident or you're not got the right gear, etc., etc. And the thing, like, I'm not going to get precious about this. If I climb 9,099 meters of a 1,000-meter hill, I don't get to the top because the wind's blowing me back. I don't see that as a failure, Chris. I see that as a good day out, right? I don't see it as a failure. I didn't reach my target, but that doesn't matter. I was out and I went and experienced, and I got back and I had a cold shower because that really does help your muscles, especially your legs. It's not nice, but you just do it and you get used to it. And then you come out and you feel brand new. You feel amazing. And that is why I do sport.
I mean, your body, it's just like the wee, wee ready Brett guy. There's just literally a glow coming off you. And once you have the cold shower, literally you could go straight outside and you still feel warm. As opposed to, like, if you get up and the central heating's on, it's like, oh, I'm kind of cold now. If you just embrace that straight away, then nothing can touch you after that. And like you're talking about these wee chats you have near the top, you don't find yourself saying, "Oh, do you hear they've put tuppence in the price of totties or whatever?" That sort of stuff is important. But when you're nearly at the top of a hill, you've got other fish to fry. So it's and straight away that you're near the top of the hill. They've just come down. So without even saying a word, you've got that much in common. So that's a lovely thing in this day and age. I need somebody. I've done a comedy video. How many likes have I got and all that? And you sometimes get involved in the minutiae that really, what does it really matter? But yeah, talking about weather conditions at the top of a hill, that's probably a wee bit more germane to the issue than worrying about who likes or doesn't like your stuff.
Yeah, I was speaking to a young fella today, and I says, what we're doing is really unusual. He goes, what? Speaking to each other. I couldn't wait. I couldn't calculate it, but a young person with a phone probably spends most of his time on that phone. And do you know the problem you've got with looking at a phone? You cannot communicate with it. You can only take in. It all goes in. With conversation, and you talk out. So you're giving a lot out. And that's what I love about getting outside. You can talk to people. That good old-fashioned thing, Chris, where you don't have to speak about likes or posts or this, that, the next thing. You can talk about mundane things that become beautifully enriching, that's why we do sport. That's why we have a sports podcast.
I would say, like, as far as the cycling goes, I don't know if it's an age thing, but the older I get, the more I try and avoid the road, because then you get into these different types of conversations with people that. So yeah, that's a sort of different. But there's a place I go. One of my pals used to live there, Abington. It's about 30 mile away. It's a beautiful cycle route. Most of it's off road. There's a separate cycle track. But what's beautiful about this, like the most I've ever done a bike 70 mile when I went to Dumfries. But the beauty of going to Dumfries or Abington is there's a bus route that goes all the way there. So if at some point you collapse, you can just get the bus back, and it's straight away before you kick a ball, you're going, right, well, I'm doing 30 mile anyway. So before anything else, or you can do the 30 mile and then come back. But just to have that wee thing there, it actually pushes you, and you end up doing more, and most times avoiding taking the bus. But just, when you can, in the main, avoid motors, then it's just a lovely thing and great for your fitness. Do you do the sort of aerobic 60 mile, or do you go for a right good hard 10 mile or whatever, which just as good? And it's a bit like hill walking. The cloud covered in, a bit of sun, bit of rain, whatever. So you'll get all your seasons in the space of 30 miles.
Yeah. I love that, Chris. I love getting the weather. It doesn't bother me if the wind's blowing in my face. It doesn't bother me if the rain's in my face or the sun suddenly comes out. That's life. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to be the kind of person who's afraid to go out in the rain because, it's rain. I'll just get out and have a run in the rain or go out my bike in the rain. It honestly doesn't bother me. That's why I've got waterproofs.
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole point is you are waterproof. So once you, I don't think resign's the right word, but once you decide that you're doing it, then that's it. You free yourself of anything and just, well, I'm doing it, and away you go.
One thing, one piece of advice I would give to anyone that's been inspired by us two talking about outdoor activity, the hardest part is getting out your front door. That is the hardest part, because doubt, fear, worry come into your head. Ignore it. Go out and get fresh air. You will not regret it. And once you get out there, there's no turning back until you're tired. I'm telling you. And your food tastes better. Your beer will taste better. Well, it depends what you drink, right enough, because some beers can't get any better. But you know what I mean? Life becomes better because you're doing that activity. I thought we just
for me, like I like the things I do is like anything I need for when I'm out on the bike. If you try and get it all out the night before and all that, it's just like you just ease straight into it. You know, there's no, oh, I can't find this, and then, oh, well, do you know what? I've looked at the window. It's just if you get everything ready and you're ready to roll, then you just do the Mr. Ben and walk straight out the door.
But even at that point, Chris, people will still look out the window and think, oh, doesn't it look a nice day? The easy option is to sit in my chair. I'm saying, get past that. Get out that door and you will not regret it. Seriously. You'll become addicted. Right. Listen, we've got to mention at some point in the podcast Scottish football, because we've only covered the kind of not the action, not the forecasts, not the actual games. Scotland are playing Japan tomorrow. Are you excited about it first, Chris?
I do like they're a decent level. I think there's like 16 places above us, so they're a good level, and it'll be a good test for us because the Denmark game. I've watched highlights a few times, but it's been a while, so we need to start getting back into the nitty gritty and playing teams that are decent. So yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
I think the weather's going to be pretty atrocious because the rain's going to come down all over Scotland. That might suit us. I don't know. Remember the game we played? I think it was it Hungary or we played Georgia. The ball. I mean, you could hit the ball across the pitch and it wouldn't move. It was just that was biblical rain. I'm not saying we should get that tomorrow, but I think we're all familiar with a lot of the Japanese players because they've come over to Scotland. Maeda, for example, and I think he might be playing. And there's other players here. They are not a bad team. This will be a real test for us, won't it?
Aye, and it's the exact antithesis of the rugby, I suppose, where we're actually taking on teams that are above us. And so they're going to England next week to play England. So yeah, I think it's a great time. Some of these guys are playing in Italy and Germany, and they're doing well. So it's mind you, so there's boys playing in Italy. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good test, and Hampden as well. So that's quite nice. I mean, obviously kicking on for the Denmark game, but yeah, I mean it's a long time coming because it does seem as if it's been a while since that night.
Well, it should be a full house at Hampden. It should be, but money's tight these days. We'll have to wait and see. I don't know what the ticket price for the games are. These friendlies, hopefully, Chris, will be reduced prices.
You would hope so. I mean, because some of these fans, I mean, it sounds surreal saying it, but some of these fans will be saving up to go to the World Cup. So
I know, but there's no any football on at a local level anywhere, so it might be a chance for people to take the opportunity rather than go to the bus down to Aberdeen or Dundee or wherever you're going. Go to Glasgow. Who knows? I hope it's well attended. The one thing that I'm not sure about in Steve Clarke's squad is the goalkeeping position. I am not convinced that Gunn, without a club, it should be in there. I think we're going through the processes of being in a team, kicking the ball out, distribution, all the rest of it. If you're not in a team playing regularly, you lose something, I think. And I don't think Liam Kelly, he's not getting a game either. So that leaves Baines in and Craig Gordon. Out of all those, there's only one goalie that's playing regularly.
Yeah.
That's not a good manager. That is not you've got to pick players on form. How can Gunn be on form? How can Craig Gordon be on form? How can Liam Kelly be on form when they don't bloody play? This is this is where I get really annoyed with Steve Clarke.
Well, I mean, Craig Gordon's injured just now, and I know he's hitting 43, but he's a very fit 43, so he's not in the squad, obviously, because he's injured, right? Angus Gunn, like, I think goalkeeping's the biggest position where you need to be playing
Correct.
week in, week out. Absolutely. If you're a centre forward and you miss a chance, well, technically, a goal is just a goal if you let one in or whatever. But the difference being that you letting a goal as a goalkeeper, then you don't, unless you're Peter Schmeichel, you can't instantly forget that. Most forwards can just, I missed a chance, I'll no root for too long. So Scott Bain, I think he made a mistake the game before last, but I just he's not he's playing well for a good team, but he's not a massive keeper. And physically, you can see that there was guys that were never massive, but guys like Andy Gorham that would come out and command the areas of the box that they knew they could command. Because that's another point I've got about keepers. Don't overreach yourself, literally physically. So I don't know. I mean, Zander Clark, he seems to have went into the. We were all sure that he was going to be the next guy in line, and he's just disappeared. So it worries me a lot that Liam Kelly, I think his attitude, and that could be the fact that he's not getting a game, but his attitude. But Scott Bain just now, playing regular, I don't think he's big enough and commanding enough. And even just now, I'm still hoping that Craig Gordon might just manage to make it back for injury and back in form. And maybe that's a bit negative, but the one thing I would say about that is that you definitely know this is his last World Cup. He'll know that straight away. So I don't think it's an easy answer, but I like Gunn. But if you're a keeper and you're not playing week in, week out, then it's very, very difficult.
It is. And we've got to be brutal here, Chris, because you're carrying the weight of Scotland on your shoulders. We don't want any passengers here. We really don't. And I'll tell you one thing, other teams don't carry any passengers. It's their top team to play. And there's no guessing or giving somebody a chance. I can't remember the goalie that Steve Clarke introduced from nowhere. And he died a death.
Smith, aye.
So this loyalty thing from Steve Clarke drives me bananas. Do your research, go out there, find if John McCracken's, doing the business for Dundee. Okay, they might be lower in the league. Does that matter? You're picking players from the second division in England. Do you think that's a better league? I don't. I don't. Just passing ball all the time. No.
Well, to your point, I mean, teams that are lower in their specific league, by the very definition, are going to be more action in your box. I mean, that's a given.
Aye.
I suppose the converse is that obviously guys at the very top that they've got 3 saves to make a game and they've got to be on it all the time. But just because someone's lower down, then that doesn't necessarily preclude them for Scotland. I wouldn't have thought. No, but keep going back to you need to be playing week in, week out. Keeper, I think it's a non-negotiable, really.
I think so as well. Klopp said once in an interview after he left Liverpool, he says, one of the things about goalkeeper, about Alisson, the keeper, I would be really annoyed if he had too much to do. The defence in front of him should be protecting him. But it turned out Alisson was the perfect keeper because he knew when to come out, he knew when to collect, he can distribute quite easily, he could set up attacks, he could really organise his defence, he could start play from the back. Just an all-round goalkeeper. But Klopp was adamant, don't give him too much to do. That's not his job. Do you know what I mean? But have we got the defenders to look after somebody like Scott Bain?
Well, we've got, I mean, bear in mind, if you think about it, before we get beat 3-2 off Greece and then Belarus done us a favour with Denmark, the fact that we were even having a playoff. So I think that, we're probably going to go down the same old road and say Grant Hanley, really what's going on there.
I know.
It's hard to know, but no, I think we've got a good selection of players to pick for, and a lot of them playing outside Scotland as well. So,
aye, there's a couple in there that I'm not keen. I don't know anything about them. George Hurst, for example. What's he doing in the Scotland jersey? And by the way, Harvey Barnes has knocked back Scotland. On that one, Chris, what do you feel? Do you think that's good or that's a shame? How do you feel about that one?
I think it's good. I mean, I would rather guys were coming into the Scotland squad that, you know, younger guys like Finlay Curtis and all that didn't even figure in under 21s the last game, but you know, he's shown a bit of promise, but he wants to be involved. You know, there was no sort of doubt or whatever. And yeah, I mean, I think it would upset the team just to have some guy that eventually says, "Oh, all right, I will." Then I don't think, you know, because Scotland on it's not like, you know, Gareth Bale or Ronaldo or whatever. You know, just
that's true.
we're not a one man team, you know, and even guys like, if you think back to dim and distant, guys like Davy Cooper, do you know what I mean? They were brilliant players, but it wasn't a one man team. So no, Harvey Barnes, you know, good luck to the guy and all that, but I don't think it sets a bad precedent that some guy humming and hawing and eventually, nah, no for me.
And the thing is, Chris, who are you going to kick out the team that's got Scotland to the World Cup and to make a space for him? No, it's just a nonsense. You want people with heart that know Scotland inside out. John McGinn, you know, when Andy Robertson was interviewed about all his trophies, Dennis Law was another one, by the way. What was your biggest achievement? You could have said European Cups. You could have said English leagues. You know what he said? Pulling on the Scotland jersey. That's who you want playing for Scotland. They know, and they know that after they've retired, they'll be watching it on the telly. They'll be in the stands. That's the kind of person you want. Not these Johnny-come-latelys who can make a decision because they've got a granny that's was left Dundee when she was 6 or something. It's got to be from the heart. You want to play for this team, not because you think, oh, that's the only option. That's the best option I've got. No, you get in there from the start and you work your way through it. And if you don't do that, we don't want you. That should be the criteria.
I mean, obviously, Finlay Curtis, if he does end up featuring, then, you know, would the team play in that? But he wasn't selected. That's the whole point. That, you know, he didn't have a decision to make there. So great, and yeah, you need to, I mean, Dennis Law as well. The things he had to come through to make it, you know, just unbelievable. So it means a lot to guys like that. And he was world class, but still a really not in this sort of full way, or I don't deserve this. Just a humble guy. So I mean, that's why he was loved, you know. And it's a shame he never lived long enough to see us getting there again.
I know. But that's fate and that's life and all the rest of it. But you know, great player, Andy Robertson. Maybe there's a big swan song for a lot of players in this World Cup. Robertson getting on, John McGinn's getting on. McTominay's still got a few years left, but there is a few in there that we could say it's going to be the end, sadly, but we've got to move on. Ben Doak's not playing. He's injured. He could have been a good playmaker for us. Is there anyone you think should be in the team that maybe isn't there?
I'm just trying to think. Well, you know, Barney Stewart. I mean,
I
can see. Like, he's getting the goals just now, right? And he's in a team that, you know, they've got skill, but they're a bit like Scotland. They've got skill, but they're quite workmanlike. But what I would say is that with Finlay Curtis, I mean, I think Doak's back in the squad training with his team. But like, he's not, you know, a guy like him. Skill and speed is his game, so you can't just parachute him in there 50% fit. You know, he'll end up getting injured straight away again.
Correct.
So I'm guessing that's why he's went with Ryan Curtis. Go right, this guy's a speed merchant, and I would say maybe it's with one eye in the World Cup, because let's face it, there's going to be games where we're under the cosh, and it behooves us just, there's an out ball, take it out, and, you know, get the pressure off us a wee bit. So I think if we can have that in our team, that would be really useful, because we know we're going to need it, and there's no shame in admitting that. You know, that we're going to be playing top class teams. So yeah, always have an out. So maybe that's why he's decided to go with him as opposed to, you know, a more sort of football playing Barney Stewart. But I was looking up Finlay Curtis, and he scored against the Greek team for Rangers. I think it's at Olympiacos.
Yep.
You know, he did really well with it. I think he played like 26 games, so I think he's fairly a favour on the Danny role. But yeah, I mean, a wee sort of left field inclusion like that, I think's a good thing.
I think getting back to this point, Chris, where we say you pick people on their current performance, and Barney Stewart is knocking in the goals. It's not just knocking in the goals. He's running space. He knows formations. He knows he's got a nose for attack. Now, when you've got a nose for attack and you can see spaces and you can overtake somebody, you've got the confidence, then you know that guy has to be a choice to be put in. Now, he's playing for the under-21s. He's still, he's a young boy. But would it have been an ideal opportunity to say, right, Barney, on you go. Let's see. 20 minutes of this game, let's see what you're all about. And if he scores, great. If he doesn't, but you can see, you'll be able to see what he's doing on the pitch. And he'll be introducing them to a bigger audience. Because a lot of people, even now, Chris, don't know who Barney Stewart is. They just follow Celtic, Rangers, or the big teams, or their own team.
Well,
but this guy is quality.
I think that's what John McGlynn wants. That the guy coming out of nowhere. To be honest, but what I would say is right. We're not going to learn much about Che Adams that we don't already know. I know he's playing at a decent enough level in Torino, but we know what he's going to do. He's going to come in, bustle guys, win the ball, and take one chance out of four or whatever. That's what he's done, and that's what he will do. So putting in another youngster, I would have been quite in favour of that, because we don't play. The whole point of playing friendlies is you need to learn. So we're doing the right thing. We're playing against a team that are 16 places above us. So go an extra yard and get another youngster in, and even if it's just to be among the squad. But yeah, I would have whipped out Che Adams, because
me too.
We know what he can do.
That's right. In this game, I think in this game though, it might be, we won't have somebody to hold up play. We want somebody to, not the hustle and bustle of Che Adams. We want somebody who can create, because that's the only way we'll get past this defence. And they're fit. Japan will be a fit team, a very organised team. It's not a case of bashing into people all the time. It's more and more a finesse game. And I think it's perfect for Shankland, because he can see a goal with one back lift of the leg and it's in the net. We've seen him do it. He's a really good pro. He knows and he can understand the rudiments of football. When the ball comes to you, go out quickly, and you've got to be direct on that goal. And the thing I love about him is that he doesn't miss many chances. And what I mean by that, he goes for that goal area. He'll make the goalie save it rather than put it past the post. Now, you want that, because more often than not, if the goalie makes a mistake, you've got a second chance at it. And that's where I think Shankland is much better than Che Adams. He's much more an instinctive striker. 6-yard blocks.
I mean, watching back, and I don't know if anybody else in the world will agree with me, but when you watch that Denmark game, it was just, I'm quite a sort of methodical guy, right? I was never as good as Shankland or anything like that, but what was beautiful, just beautiful, the other three goals were world class, but this, for me, he was standing in the line and Schmeichel moved towards the ball and he just stood there. And you literally, he made the move for you and he just stood there, and that was,
classic.
It was eclipsed by all these, fancy goals, but for me, it's just like a crocodile. It'll do one thing really well, and that's all it does. It doesn't. I'm not saying that's all that Shankland's got in his game, but it was just a beautiful thing to see, and I'm maybe easily impressed. But the simple things really impressed me. What I would say is, I doubt that Shankland's 100%. He's good enough to come back for Hearts just now, but I don't know if he would have been. To be honest, I probably would have rather went for Barney Stewart than Shankland.
But we know Steve Clarke though, Chris. We know Steve Clarke won't entertain anyone that hasn't been in the squad before. He's reluctant to bring in new faces at this point. And so what you'll get is Barney Stewart will be in the under-21s. And if he plays well there's a chance for the next game. He might introduce him. But we've got a chance for Shankland. And now, even if he only comes on for a cameo 20 minutes at the end, I'm telling you, that man is worth his weight in gold. He's got so much confidence playing in the Scotland shirt, getting that goal that you described. He knows he can do it, so why not have him there? I think it's perfect for him. If he doesn't play him, it'll be a travesty, another travesty from Clark.
Well, I mean, I'm quite a sort of grateful guy, but I just can't believe we're actually talking about we're playing pre-World Cup friendlies. So that was not down to us. That was down to Belarus.
Well, do you know this, Chris? That's an interesting point because my Welsh friends are in mourning right now because they were put out last night on penalties, right? Penalties, man. What a way to go. And we're sitting pretty above all that, right? I don't know if Denmark, they're still in the mix. They've got to qualify. I wouldn't hate to be going through all that again. Remember when we had to play Ukraine? Or we had to play, and we got beat by them, and then Wales beat them, and then they went to the World Cup.
Well, sure. I mean, it literally killed Jock Stein. I mean, that's literally what killed. I'm not saying it could have been 3 weeks later, a month that it could have happened in a Celtic game, but that literally killed that man.
Yeah.
Just to avoid that at all costs.
I know. So, be grateful for small mercies. Scotland are on the world stage. This is amazing, and if we win one game and draw another game, that might be all it takes, Chris, to get into the next round. Something that previous managers have failed to do. So we have to live in hope. But we're always wanting the best team. And for punters like me and you who do a podcast and we watch football week in, week out, we get an eye for players. And what my problem is with Steve Clark, he bases himself in England. He has no idea about what we're seeing in Scottish football. He doesn't see it himself.
I mean, I'm sure he'll have his lieutenants up there on a given basis, but it's a pure substitute.
It's correct. It's a poor substitute. When you see them in the flesh and you see what they're doing, and you're marveling at their skills, and you think should be a Scotland in the game because he's shown up. And we look at all the attributes: link-up play, going behind the ball, running ahead, all the rest of it. You know what we're talking about here. And if one player does that, and we suddenly find he's not even nowhere near the squad, we're as fans we're absolutely perfectly entitled to be wondering what the hell's going on.
Well, I don't think Slattery will be a wild card anytime soon. I don't do very well in predictions, but that's my prediction for this week.
Slattery and flattery. There's a joke in there somewhere, isn't there? I can't even make one up. I'm not that
a backhanded joke.
I'm not that clever. But that's us. We've wrapped up. Listen, can I just say, if you followed us right through to this point, thanks very much. That's really decent of you. If you can subscribe and like and share this out, would be appreciative. Next week, we'll be relying, fingers crossed, on a full complement. We'll get Glenn back with his quiz. But he couldn't do it today. He's in too much discomfort. And we've got to give him that slack. But it is a miss, Chris, isn't it, when he's not here? You miss the third guy.
It's good. It's generally a sort of more polite, well-observed panel member.
Anyway, that's us for tonight. Thanks a lot, Chris, for joining me, and me joining you, I suppose. Right. We'll be back again next week to do it all over again, but wherever you are, keep moving, get outside, and we'll catch up next week. All the very best. Cheers, Chris.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye now.